I will now call to order our regularly scheduled Apex Town Council meeting for Tuesday, January 8th, 2021. And I would like to invite all of you, actually, thank you for coming out to our meeting tonight. I know there's a hurricane game tonight. I don't know why y'all are here. Watching the game.
It's 6:30.
It's 6:30. All right, well, I just want to keep it. I just want to keep the official score, so let me know what the score is. Okay, so we're good. All right, we'll go ahead and get started with education. This Town of Apex values celebrates diversity and inclusion. We see diversity as a strength that binds our community together. Inviting members from different faith communities to deliver an invocation at the beginning of our council meetings supports this unity. Recognizing that not everyone practices the same traditions, we welcome you to have a private moment of silence during this time. I would like to call up Pastor Asa Clark from Apex First Baptist Church to deliver the invocation tonight. Welcome, Pastor Asa.
Thank you. If we can bow our heads. Father, we say thank you. We love you. We magnify your name. Lord, we honor you for this opportunity. Lord, to just all come together, multiple faiths, Lord God, not only honoring you, but trying to get things done for the community and for your people. God, we ask that today is a blessed meeting, that we're able to keep you first and that we're able to do things that will begin to push your children forward. In your holy and precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. If you would, stand and join me, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. We'll start out tonight with two presentations, and they are proclamations that I'm really excited about, honored to be a part of. And we'll start with a presentation of Juneteenth proclamation. And as usual, this is a shared reading by the council, and we'll start with Councilwoman Cheryl Stallings.
Juneteenth. Whereas our country is made up of people from every nation who are declared equal not only in freedom, but also in justice, both of which are essential for civilization, and whereas our nation was conceived on July 4th, 1776, with the Declaration of Independence, the classic statement being, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and
Whereas, using his war powers as president, Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, providing that all persons held as enslaved within any state or designated part of a state shall then be and thenceforth forever free. And whereas Juneteenth, also known as Freedom Day, is a worldwide celebration which commemorates the end of slavery in the United States of America. And
whereas on June 19, 1865, Union soldiers led by Major General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas to enforce the Emancipation Proclamation signed by President Lincoln over 2.5 years prior on September 22, 1862, and to free all remaining enslaved people in the state of Texas. And whereas initially a regional celebration popular in Texas and neighboring states brought remaining family members together who had resettled after June 19, 1865, Juneteenth grew to become a national event during which African American communities gathered to share in the spirit of the day, featuring outdoor activities, food, and prayer services. And
whereas Juneteenth celebrations declined in the early 20th century, the result of educational focus which emphasized the Emancipation Proclamation, shifts in the workforce due to the Great Depression, and the popularity of the July 4th holiday. And whereas the Civil Rights Movement spurred a resurgence of Juneteenth, leading to the state of Texas declaring it an official state holiday in 1980, and continued to grow as an important national and local celebration of African American freedom, culture, and achievement. And
whereas the residents, businesses, and the government institutions of the town of Apex, North Carolina are firmly committed to celebrating and promoting diversity, inclusion, and cultural traditions of our town's communities. And whereas since June 2020, the town of Apex has declared Juneteenth as an official town holiday and day of observance. And
whereas on Saturday, June 19th, the town of Apex will observe and mark this important historical event and encourage all Apex to celebrate this important event that promotes equity, respect, and understanding between people of all backgrounds and cultures. Now therefore, I, Jacques K. Gilbert, Mayor of the Town of Apex, do hereby recognize and commemorate Juneteenth in the Town of Apex and call upon all citizens to celebrate and explore this important celebration of African American culture, history, freedom, and pride. Signed this 8th day of June, 2021. And I'm excited to call up Pastor Asa Clark from Apex First Baptist, as they will be co-sponsoring the event on June the 19th here in our town, and my daughter, Calabria Gilbert Lemire, also is part of that. And I would like to call Mayor Pro Tem Nicole Dozier down with me to present this proclamation. And also Colleen Marie, I'm sorry, coordinator of the event. All right, so first of all, I just want to recognize you for all your work that you've done to bring this first Juneteenth to our town. I know TJ Evans, he's also a part of that, and he's not here tonight. But I want to thank you again for doing this on behalf of our entire town. Thank you so much for representing us well. So I present tonight this proclamation. It would be in a nice frame, but I'll get that to you later. But I would like to get a photo op if we could. Get someone to take a picture. We'll call Sean. How about that? He's a photographer. What is that, like a war?
It's like crazy. It's like pretty big.
Fingers.
Wait, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2.
Round of applause, please. And just a little bit more about the Juneteenth Festival that is coming on June 19th, Saturday. Starts at 11 a.m., will go to 3 p.m. Food trucks, vendors, music, games, live performances, raffle, and more. So at the Depot downtown, so join us there on Saturday, June the 19th. All right, we'll move now to proclamation LGBTQIA Pride Month 2021. As with the last proclamation, we're joined in a share reading started by Councilwoman Cheryl Stallings.
Whereas individuals who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, or asexual celebrate Pride Month or LGBTQIA Pride Month, and it is celebrated nationwide each year in the month of June, and whereas this month was chosen to commemorate the events that took place 51 years ago at the Stonewall Inn in Manhattan, New York, on June 28, 1969, and is often viewed as the beginning of the modern LGBTQIA rights movement. And
whereas it is important during this month to take time to reflect on LGBTQIA rights movement, including the intersectionality and inclusiveness of all races, ethnicities, ages, and genders. And whereas LGBTQIA people in the United States, the state of North Carolina, and the town of Apex have made and continue to make vital contributions to the world in many ways. And
whereas LGBTQIA Americans have achieved significant milestones ensuring that future generations of people in the United States will enjoy a more just society, and whereas despite extraordinary progress, LGBTQIA Americans still face discrimination, and
Whereas the state of North Carolina and the town of Apex stand with the LGBTQIA community in the struggle to ensure equal treatment for all and to advocate for LGBTQIA rights as human rights, and
Whereas the town of Apex will continue to advocate for protections for all LGBTQIA individuals to make our town a place where all people, regardless of their sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression, are treated with dignity and respect, and
Whereas the town of Apex proclaims June 2021 as LGBTQIA Pride Month to recognize the contributions and struggles of peoples that identify as such. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that the town of Apex recognizes June 2021 as LGBTQIA Pride Month, signed this 8th day of June 2021. And Councilwoman Killingsworth, if you would draw me down for a few words. And also, Mr. Tony Cope, Mrs. Cope, if you would join me. And Holly Moraes. Can I have a photographer, please? All right, so on behalf of the town of Apex, it's my honor to recognize Pride Month in the town of Apex, starting in 2021, and many years to come. My love to you and all people.
Should take a picture first.
So this year, there are going to be some events in Apex. We're having 3 events, one of which is a forum on Friday evening, which will be broadcast live on YouTube. So that one starts at 6 p.m. On the morning of the 12th, the Apex Farmers Market is sponsoring Apex Pride event. So that'll be from 9 to 12 at the Apex Farmers Market. We'll have a bunch of things for sale there. We'll have signups for people that wish to volunteer for next year, and just kind of build community. And then the afternoon is a Town of Apex sponsored event at the Hunter Street Park for anyone who's interested, from 12 to 4. So we've got community events there, food and fun.
Okay. Thank you, Councilwoman.
Appreciate that.
All right. Thank you. All right. So that ends our presentations for the night. We'll move now into the consent agenda. All consent agenda items are considered routine to be enacted by one motion with the adoption of the consent agenda and without discussion. If a council member requests discussion of an item, the item may be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Any updates on consent agenda or anybody opposed? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion second, discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right. Move now to setting of the regular meeting agenda. And we do have one add-on tonight. It's a closed session add-on, possible motion to go into closed session to consult with the town attorney pursuant to GS 143-318.11A3 to preserve attorney-client privilege. With that add-on, I will entertain a motion to.
I'll make a motion to approve with the add-on for the closed session.
Second.
Second it?
Yes.
Just for clarification, the closed session will be held after the work session, correct?
That's correct. All right, everybody clear on that? Okay, good. All right, so we have a motion second. Discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, that passed unanimously. We have a set meeting agenda. All right, we move now to public forum. This is your opportunity to speak to council. You can come up and present for 3 minutes, and just understand that we will not be responding to any questions or anything. We're just here to listen tonight. And if you're requesting any follow-up, it will be done by myself or a member of council or a member of staff. So when I call your name, if you would come up. Elizabeth Stitt will be our first presenter tonight.
Good evening. Elizabeth Stitt, 3113 Friendship Road. You have in front of you a small little packet that says for public forum, because I have 2 handouts for tonight. On Sunday, June 6, the Friendship community had a meeting that was attended by more than 45 people to discuss concerns regarding past development and future development. Past development has not always lived up to certain expectations that were perceived to have been set by the town, and there are continued concerns that future development will fall short of expectations as well. As such, we are creating a community group to represent our interest and to ensure the town is aware of our expectations. This group will be inclusive, open to you and to developers as well. Once we have a meeting schedule, we will share it, but in the interim, we can be reached at a community email box, friendship.discussions@gmail.com. Our goal is not anti-development, but collaborative development to meet the needs of our community and to ensure expectations set by the town are achieved. For example, if you take a look at the packet in front of you, you'll see pages 1 through 3, that the town spent money on a traffic study that justified the need for Friendship Road to be widened to 4 lanes and be realigned to Holland Road, being Amendment 1. On pages 4 through 7, during the October 6, 2020 Town Council meeting, just a mere 8 months ago, the council approved Amendment 1, which set the expectation in our community that Friendship Road was shifted to the east. And from multiple town statements, it is the town's own expectation that road construction will be funded by developers of those parcels as a condition to develop. We use this example as it is timely given that there is a vote tonight on 2 tracks where Friendship Road is slated to go. This is shown on the last page of the packet. We know that providing you information in real time is not ideal, and we strive to provide you information further in advance. We look forward to your questions, to working with you and succeeding together. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Stitt. All right, next, and I'm trying to read the writing here, Jason Eggers, is that right?
Yeah, it's Jason Eggers.
Eggers, okay.
So I'm here on behalf of multiple neighbors in the Brittany Trace neighborhood. There are roughly 8 of us, and we have become frustrated with the Peak of the Vine wine bar, and we have exhausted pretty much all avenues of trying to deal with it on our own, and would like you all to understand sort of what we are dealing with. So we're all long-term residents of the area. It's never had an issue. We get along with everybody. We enjoy living close to downtown and all of the things that brings with it. There's no issues when we have festivals. There's no issues with any of this. However, a couple of years ago, the Peak of the Vine did move adjacent to our neighborhood. And since then, we have had multiple issues with Peak of the Vine. We have first tried to deal with it as a neighbor would and reached out to him and kindly asked him if he could, quiet down, maybe limit some of the hours that he was playing some music, and that was to no avail. So one thing that is misconstrued or misunderstood, and that's no one's fault, is this did not start with COVID. This started actually 2 years ago. My very first email to him was after a couple weeks of being frustrated with the loud noise and me having to go inside and not barbecue because on a Saturday it's super loud. I can't hear my friends who came over or family who came over for a barbecue. And finally, on March 23rd of 2019, a year before the lockdown, I reached out to him and I asked him if he would please address some of the noise concerns. So this is my email. We are your neighbors now that you've moved locations and would ask you keep the noise down or soundproof your walls a little better. Thursday night, a school night, I have a 10-year-old and a 8-year-old. Back then they were 9 and 7, right? You kept my kids awake with bad karaoke until midnight. And tonight, on Friday, I was sitting in my bedroom listening to Black Magic Woman at 11:15 p.m. I don't remember your place being so loud in the old location, but you are next to a neighborhood now with kids that need sleep. Thanks for your understanding. We really are happy you guys reopened. We frequented your place often. So it started off very neighborly and asking. Then that had the effect of the next weekend they were a little bit quieter, and then it just took off from there. And then would phone call in, and they just started ignoring that. And then I started hearing from my neighbors that they were complaining that the same thing was happening. Now, this is 2 years ago. And everyone was getting upset that we were calling, we were addressing them, we were trying to deal with it as a neighbor would do. And as you can see, I mean, that's at 11:15 at night, which I know is outside of noise ordinances. The night before, on a Thursday, they're doing karaoke, right? And so my issue is, as a retail establishment, how can they be doing karaoke and having music blaring outside of their establishment that late at night? Now, that did get addressed.
Mr. Eggers, I'm going to have to cut you off. Your time is up.
I am representing 8 people, though, a large group, and it said 9 minutes on the board.
Okay, you're good. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
My apology.
No, thank you. It didn't say how many you're representing, it said more than, So this has been going on, and so then what happened was, obviously we were all a little bit upset because it's affecting, we all like to sit in our backyards, we all like to relax after work, and you've got music blaring. They're keeping our kids awake inside the house. It's so loud that you can hear it inside the house. We actually will be sitting there watching TV with a movie on, and you can hear it inside of our house, right? And so then it escalated to calling the police, and the police, at first just tried to go down there and give them the warnings as you would expect and all that. And they would shut down or close down. And then the next day they would just do the same thing. And so we called, if you were to check the records, there has to be more than 20 complaints to the police department. Finally, last year, they got fined $1,000. I believe it was in December because they had broken some noise ordinances. And they quieted down for 2 months until this body waived that $1,000 fine, and the very next weekend they were at it again. We have met with the town planners, or 2 of them now, to discuss these issues, and so we have sort of, and we were told that they have no ability to enforce the permit ordinances. And the police say, well, we can't enforce any of the alcohol ordinances, and everyone's saying we have laws on the books that nobody seems to be able to enforce. And so now we, as a body of citizens, are getting upset because we have gone directly to them, we've gone to the police, we have gone to the town manager, and now we are before this body to say, what more can we do to just get somebody who is operating outside of their permit to either enforce the law or like when is it enough that the town will enforce the laws that are on the books? He says he's a retail establishment. I have been to that place probably 10 times. I've never seen a bottle of wine walk out that door. I have seen people consume, including me and my neighborhood, because we're a really close neighborhood, we've consumed a lot of alcohol on premise. Never did I see a bottle of wine walk out that door. He is now in my backyard, and that was before he moved. Never have seen a bottle of wine walk out out of his thing. I've seen a lot of people drinking inside, a lot of people drinking outside, all glasses of wine. So everyone knows he's a wine bar. There's nobody in Apex that would think that he's a bottle shop, right? We all know he's a bar. And yet we keep getting told there's nothing we can do about it. We can't audit his receipts. He looks like a bar, he smells like a bar, he walks like a bar, but we can't do anything because our hands are tied because the ordinances aren't written in a way that we can enforce them. That's what we keep hearing. And so now what are we supposed to do? And that's our concern, and that's what we would appreciate if you guys could help us, especially as we're looking to expand and grow downtown, which we personally are not against the expansion. If it's adjacent to a neighborhood, those sorts of establishments shouldn't be right next to a neighborhood where it is going to negatively impact citizens that have been there way before any of this expansion and for years. We all know that there's going to be a certain amount of noise at certain times of the year, and we all accept it. No one complains about it. We enjoy it. But when it starts affecting the quality of life of multiple neighbors, and keeping my kids up who go to Bockham School and walk down there, but on Friday nights I'm telling them to put earplugs, or Thursday nights I'm telling them to put earplugs in. It's just not acceptable. And so I think everyone has turned a blind eye, and I think that everyone has tried to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I think it's now time for us to enforce the laws on the book. He is a bar. He is not a retail establishment, and there is no way that we can say that he's not. And I know that as a retail establishment, there's certain things that we can do to keep him from operating in the way that he's operating. So that's all I got. So any questions that you guys may have, please reach out to me in my neighborhood. We are more than happy to meet with you guys. It's nothing personal. We've tried every avenue and now we're out of avenues, and we need some resolution. Thank you.
Can you make sure the Madam Clerk has your telephone number?
Sure will.
Reach out to you.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, Myler and Owen. Miles. Oh, I'm sorry. That's an S, not an R.
Yeah.
Miles and Owen.
Hello, Mayor Gilbert, members of the town council, and neighbors. Our names are Miles and Owen. We want to talk about the animal population in Apex, North Carolina. People are not watching where they're going because animals are getting run over by cars, like birds, deers, turtles, and frogs, and snakes. People are cutting down trees and destroying the animals' habitats. People were running over animals with their cars. They should pay attention to animals and the road. People must be more careful. I know that people are being careful, but almost every time I have been on the road, I saw dead deer, dead frogs, or like dead snakes, and probably dead birds. People should be more thoughtful when it comes to eating animals. People should consider eating less meat. Maybe maybe once a week or even once a month. Poor chickens are dying. They are dying. They did nothing wrong. People are killing and hunting animals, and sometimes for money. This is unfair to the animals in our town. I think we should stop it and give them a good place to live like the zoo. Not only mammals, even fish are dying every day, almost every day, because of humans. They are not giving a chance to live or lay their eggs, so we can save them and let the fish go to their natural habitat. Animals have been dying every day, even before the coronavirus, like fishing and hunting. Humans should stop all the hunting and fishing, and only hunting fish, the animals that they are going to cook. Example, at Apex Community Park, there are a pair of fish people have been catching, and I don't know if they're females or males, but they need to lay their eggs. People have been killing lots of animals. We should help them instead of killing them. My brother and I have been rescuing a lot of animals like snakes, birds, frogs, tadpoles, worms that are drying up in the sun, and lots more. But we should care about the wild animals more. We should care. During the coronavirus, people have been taking care of other people more than animals. We want to save humans and animals. Thank you for listening.
Okay. Thank you, Miles. Well done. That's good. All right. Next, I would like to call up Gabriel Carrillo. I know that's right.
Told you, right?
I am up there Duke or something, huh? Man. Good evening. My name is Gabriel Adam Carrillo of 105 Cameron Valley Court, and I'm at this podium speaking on behalf of Kelly West Homeowners Association, upon which I'm currently serving as an active member on the board of directors. So Kelly West, like all communities across the country, has dealt with the pandemic through improvision, a commitment to our neighborhood, and a devotion to duty. We have rallied together around the central premise that very few things are more important than public health and well-being. I can tell you now, as a physician in training at Duke University, that sometimes we in the medical community don't place enough emphasis on the power of physical activity, along with a diet, good exercise, and the fight against chronic disease and childhood obesity, which unfortunately is on the rise. To that end, Greenways are a modality that provides significant health advantages that will serve generations for years to come. Thus, we are here tonight to advocate strongly for the expedited completion of Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the Beaver Creek Greenway. As you know, the Greenway has been approved for quite some time, and actually it has gone through multiple iterations over the years. In fact, something we wanted to state on the record was that Kelly West donated 14 acres to the town of Apex back in 2014 for this project. And yet, nearly 7 years later, the Greenway remains without even a single bid on the industry, from industry partners on the construction job itself. So Kelly West was told more than a year ago that the right-of-way approvals were what was needed in order to sign off on the project before we could break ground. So, however, several of those pending requests remain outstanding for many months. In fact, one of those official requests to a gas utilities company was just submitted in the last 2 weeks. So we respectfully ask, what is the delay? And we ask this with humility, but also with a sense of urgency. We know that the pandemic has thrown a wrench into everything and that the DOT funding was a big part of this. But it is our understanding from correspondence back in January and in December that the planning department, that DOT funds were available at this point. And I think it was LAD funding as well too that was also made available. But regardless, the long and the short of it is our efforts at Kelly West predate the pandemic significantly, and inaction should not continue. As a firm supporter of the good work that this town council does, we give thanks to you and the local government officials who have continued their steadfast service to the town of Apex during these trying times. However, we must move the ball down the field, and we ask that you support actions to fast track the Beaver Creek Greenway, which has far-reaching public health benefits for the community. But it is not only an issue of public health, it is also a concern about safety. With massive increases in home development and the growth of nearby commercial industry, the path to our school, Olive Chapel Elementary, has become riddled with vehicle congestion and foot traffic crowding the sidewalks. For God's sakes, we have this woman, her name is Wilma, her poor soul has been there ushering the young kids across the way to Olive Chapel for quite some time. And she used to have a whistle, and she would use the whistle pretty effectively, but now she's been drawn out and it's sort of pushed to the side. In fact, we just had a vote in the HOA to give her air horns, to help her out.
Mr. Ridlow.
Yes. Okay, all right. So in large part, what I was trying to say is that we asked the town council to take action here, to push it forward, to let the planning committee know, or the planning department that's here, that the Greenway is essential to us.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, signed in as Miss Unity, you would come up. If you could give us your name and address, please, for the record.
For security reasons, I can't do that since I'm a domestic violence survivor.
Thank you.
But you gave me that title. If I'm representing 1,000+ residents, do I still have 3 minutes?
I'll give you, how much time do you?
I don't think I would need that much time, but I will do my best to, so everybody else can
Yeah, we have.
come forward. But I also have copies to give out if that is okay to approach.
Yeah, if you could stay as close as 3 if you can.
I will, I promise. I will do my best. What, can I give this
Absolutely.
first? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we can pass it
Yeah.
on. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Well, good evening, Mayor. Thank you for having me come again today. I wish I didn't have to come today. I'd rather be home with my dog and stay at home. But I stand before you and council today to say I have nothing to lose. As a member of this community who is willing to fight for fairness and unity, we are not giving up. We are a unified front and within our community called residents. We, the residents, are holding this town council and mayor accountable for breaking the law of one and for continually manifesting dangerous negative agendas and narratives regarding a whole unit of a police department and all town residents of Apex. I have addressed Mayor Gilbert and Councilwoman Stallings on an email on June 1st, 2021 regarding false media reporting that WRAL issued. One particular recent story is pertaining to the WRAL report made by reporter Matt Telham on Memorial Day on 5/31/21, a day of remembrance. I do not have enough time tonight to reiterate this falsified story, but if you would like to hear it, you can seek it online. But I would like to quote two experts. Number one, the new incoming manager, Katie Crosby, promises accountability to everyone in the community. I couldn't agree more on this. This is why I stand. I am holding each and every one of you accountable on your continued allowance of giving away your elected official power to the biased media, such as WRAL and reporter Matt Telham. They not only abuse the power that you hand to them by not accurately reporting truth and facts. This media takes that power and feeds it to suit only hateful, negative agendas to obtain ratings. This allowance of media to continually manifest such hate and evil narratives that are dangerous. Media spews not the reality of the truth and power of the law called justice. This duality of good versus evil is ending now. The fiddle has been played out since the beginning of time to use as a weapon to control the masses with false power called systems. That playbook no longer works. Media reported on 5/31/21 said officers said, this is number 2 by the way, that the department only serves the wealthy and white side of Apex and is abusive to minorities. I am seeking the mayor with town council to show me this paragraph on this assessment report that was released to the public in February of 2021. The town people request an answer on how this conclusion came about and where does it state this on official documentation on record. We want to know who said this within the department and within the town. We want names, we want answers. We as a community are ready to hold those accountable through the necessary judicial process. Mayor needs to point out those who have taken wrongful actions against our neighbors based on color of skin and creed. Why would anyone hold this pertinent information to the people? In order to properly move forward together, this must occur. Why are we doing this to a whole community and a unit? Your honesty will be respected. For saying the truth backed by facts, we, the residents, will peel back those layers of the rotten onion to get to the core of resolution. If you feel that we, the town, the police department, need to suffer your wrath of what you speak, say, and do, what is your justification? Mr. Mayor, I have asked you both publicly and privately to show me the concrete evidence of this racial entrenchment that you claim runs havoc in our community. The residents of this town and police department have taken the necessary measures and to ensure that all people who reside here from all walks of life are never to be met to feel indifferent, inadequate, not a part of this community. We know who we are. We are all one. We hear everyone loud and clear to be there for one another. Love thy neighbor is alive and well. The only entrenchment that exists here and now is goodness, kindness, and love. We all demonstrate that our actions within ourselves and outwardly towards one another, which is called our character. The unfortunate residential fire that occurred in Hannon Hall on 5/20/21 is prime proof of unity. How dare you or anyone permit WRAL and Matt Telham any power of authority to falsely report to the public without these truth of facts 11 days later by not retracting his story, by calling another media outlet to make a public statement? My precious time and energy I have willingly given you and council will not be in vain. I was led to believe in a private meeting for a better now and a better tomorrow alongside you. We were set to be that bridge for peace, prosperity, and unity. Then this report drops along with a full circle back, yet again, of venom and malicious rhetoric with hateful divisiveness on your town and department as surrounding residential areas watch with eyes wide open. Today I say no more. We all come in different colors, different shapes, different sizes, different backgrounds. We share a flair of all different flavors. We all look different, yes we do, but I am you and you are me. We remain standing side by side as a people with that common core value called we are free. This is one apex. We all climb long and hard to reach our one peak. It is our birthright, our sovereignty. We, the residents, no longer accept the label of the minority. It is now the time we stand with our head held high and walk that walk. We are the majority, all of us. All law-abiding citizens are the majority.
Your time is up.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tim Brent.
Tim Brent, 7610 Hazelhurst Circle. Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, thank you for the time tonight. My name is Tim Brent. I am an Apex resident and lead a national commercial development office called Oppenheimer Investment Company. We're currently working on 2 projects here in Apex, one being the Highline building downtown, which we're very excited about and plan on having our southeast headquarters in, among other businesses, restaurants, and retail. We're also working on developing the remaining 83 acres of Cash Corporate Center with a joint venture development partner called Crown Companies. On Cash Corporate, our plans consist of 4 Class A industrial buildings totaling almost 850,000 square feet, which would total both of our projects of over $100 million in investment in the town of Apex, not counting countless jobs and millions of dollars of tax base. We negotiated a development agreement with the town regarding our development of the remaining property. And in these negotiations, we agreed to pay for roads. We were led to believe that the town was giving up profit in the remaining part of the property in which they planned to use to pay for roads. So we gladly took the opportunity to take those development costs on ourselves. We were told we'd be responsible for our pro rata share of the development costs the town had already incurred in marketing the Cash Corporate Center. Obviously, there was another portion of the town that built a road in or a gravel drive into Cash Corporate as well. So our total payoff consisted of $146,783.63, and that's what we had budgeted for going to the closing table last week. When we got ready to close, we were given a settlement statement of $1,303,343.63, which was presented just prior to closing and represents both the profit or equity plus the pro rata share in development costs. I will say I have really enjoyed working with the staff through the process. Sometimes it's slow, but we have really enjoyed working with the staff members here, and my hope is that this was just a mere mistake and something that we can reconcile quickly. We've offered the town up to 50% of this total number because our equity partner needs to move fast on this. I ask the council considers that we budgeted the $146,783, and that's what we had been told our pro rata share would be through negotiations. So please consider that in your decision. And again, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that is the last name I have on the sign-in sheet, so we'll close public forum and move now to our public hearings. So first public hearing tonight, public hearing 1, is presented tonight by Diane Ken, annexation number 706.
Sorry. All right, so this is annexation 706 at 6401 Apex Barbecue Road and 1216 and 1330 South Salem Street. This is the property known as Depot 499. The owners include Heart Bar LLC, Memphis and Maddox LLC, Sweet Willie LLC, William Douglas and Gene S. Poe, and Lennar Carolinas LLC. And it's 157 acres. It's located here near 540 interchange with South Salem Street, Old US 1. You can see the property there. So they are proposing to annex into the town's corporate limits in order to get their construction plans approved and gain town utilities, including water and sewer. And so staff does recommend approval of this annexation.
Okay, thank you. Questions for Ms. Kim? Hearing none. All right, I'll open up public hearing for this item. No one has signed up tonight to speak. Diane, do we have any emails or anything, or?
No, we've received no
Okay,
comments.
all right, thank you. All right, no comments. Therefore, I'll close public hearing and refer the matter to council for discussion, lead to a possible motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right, motion second. Discussion. All right, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, that passes unanimously. We're moving now to public hearing number 2. And it's public hearing and possible motion to approve rezoning application 21CZ05, Friendship Storage.
Hi, good evening. Since this is continued, would you like me to provide a quick summary of it and any additional changes or updates?
Please do, thank you.
Sure, thank you. All right, so as I mentioned, this is in our ETJ in the Friendship area. It's two properties proposed to be rezoned. They're currently rural residential. They're proposing to rezone to Tech Flex conditional zoning. It is consistent with the land use map classification. And in addition to the 9 proposed zoning conditions that were heard at the last meeting, the applicant has since then provided 3 additional conditions that I will read. So number 10, except for the installation of a driveway and signage, including clearing and grading necessary for such construction, there shall be no buildings, parking, or development activities related to buildings or parking within 400 feet of Friendship Road. Within this 400 feet of no build zone, at least 50% of existing tree canopy shall be saved and remain undisturbed. Number 11, no building containing self-storage use shall be located within 100 feet of the current right-of-way for Old US 1 highway. And number 12, development of the property shall include a minimum of 30% RCA. So those are the 3 additional zoning conditions. And I do apologize that you don't have them. We received them today, so. And also to add to the May 25th meeting, I would also like to point out that in the application that has been updated to reflect the new property owner on page 1, the affidavit of ownership for that property, and the agent authorization. Those are the changes, and I'll be happy to answer any questions as well as our applicant who's in the audience.
I would have liked to have seen the conditions in person. Could you read that first one again? It was quite long.
Sure. Except for the installation of a driveway and signage, including clearing and grading necessary for such construction, there shall be no buildings, parking, or development activities related to buildings or parking within 400 feet of Friendship Road. Within this 400 feet, no build zone, at least 50% of existing tree canopy shall be saved and remain undisturbed.
Is 400 feet roughly the distance of the little sliver part?
Yes.
Okay.
The applicant can also discuss more for that since it's site related as well.
Any other questions? Would you like to hear from the applicant, anyone?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of the council. Jason Barron with Morningstar Law Group. Here on behalf of the applicant in this case. I wasn't here when you all considered this case last. I had actually gotten a phone call from this applicant about handling the site plan associated with this project, but they didn't perceive to have a need for my services as part of the zoning case. I understood after they went to public hearing the first time there was some confusion related to property ownership. There were some questions and comments that had generated the need for some feedback. So I went back and watched the town council public hearing to understand a little bit better in terms of what the concerns that were raised at that time. And so as Lauren mentioned, we've addressed the concerns associated with ownership of the property. Candidly, I think that was just a scrivener's error, was a mistake on behalf of the team for not updating those materials before it got to you. And so we'll fall on the sword as a team for not having those ducks in a row before we got here last time. And there was some confusion associated with a member of the planning board recusing themselves from consideration of the case, but I believe that has been resolved, and there isn't any question about the fact that planning board member had nothing to do with the project. And so lastly, the updated conditions that are before you tonight. We've prepared an exhibit and we worked on the language of the conditions over the weekend, just in an effort to make sure that what we were doing was kind of in keeping, condition number 10, and this exhibit is really just kind of to show you what the 400 and what the 100 looks like on the screen. But condition number 10 is kind of in response to a question that Councilwoman Stallings had, and that was related to tree cover. We had heard some concerns from the community, actually received some concerns today from a concerned member of the community related to visual impacts from the development from Friendship Road. I called that individual and let him know that we had already offered this condition requiring that no buildings and no parking would be located any closer than 400 feet from Friendship Road. And so what that means is in this portion of the site, the only development related activity that's going to be permitted is a driveway through there. Don't know where that's going to go. We'll determine that at the time of development plan, but only a driveway is permitted per that condition. So any buildings or parking or development activities for building or parking has to occur east of this line here. And further, that 50% of the existing tree canopy has to be saved and left undisturbed in that area. We think that's a conservative number. It's probably going to end up being more than that because the driveway is just going to be a simple driveway. You know, you're not talking about like a 3-lane thoroughfare through the site. It's a 2-lane driveway accessing the site. So we anticipate it's going to be greater than that, but again, we don't know exactly how that's going to be configured until we get to development plan. But that's the intent behind that condition. We've also provided a condition prohibiting any self-storage use from being located any closer than 100 feet from the old US Highway 1 right-of-way. And that, again, is conservative. The intent behind this overall development is really to have two different uses, and I think that might have been lost during the conversation. It's requesting the right to do north of 42,000 square feet of non-residential uses along the frontage of the property. And so those are intended to be retail/office uses along the old US Highway 1 location. And then at the back of the site, there's the intent to do a self-storage building of up to 3 stories in height. There are conditions in the case related to architecture, materials, kind of high-quality materials associated with the architecture for that self-storage building. And I do want to note that active solar is a part of this proposal. Condition number 3, it requires the installation of 320 square feet of rooftop solar for a total of 20 panels on the buildings that are going to be constructed here. And so the intent really is to provide a mixed use that will provide retail up along the frontage that you'll be able to see. We'll tuck a 3-story self-storage building kind of in the back against the active rail line in this location. You know, the benefit of the self-storage use, especially in an area like this, is really multifold. One is this is an area that's growing and growing fast. As you all are aware, there have been a number of homes that have already been built in this area, and there are a number of homes that have been approved in and around this area that have yet to be built, that will get built at some point in the near future. The demand associated for self-storage is only going to be, increased. And self-storage, as you all are aware, in the 21st century, has become really an extension of people's homes. As homes have become more expensive, and our collective desires to do things like shop online at Amazon, and I know I'm as guilty as anybody in doing that self-storage facilities have become almost a necessary extension of the single-family experience. And we anticipate, my client anticipates, there will be not only existing demand, but will be continued increase in demand for self-storage use in this location. Second, it's an incredibly low traffic generator. Now, the retail is going to generate traffic associated with 40,000 square feet of retail, and we think that's appropriate in this area to put that up along Old US Highway 1. But the self-storage use, the parking is very, very low. Self-storage uses park at a very low rate because there's very few users at any given time, and the traffic generated associated with it is extraordinarily low. And again, I think that's a redeeming quality associated with the use of this nature, considering it's going to be backed up to the rail line. This is an area that is growing and growing fast. I mean, Apex is growing fast, and this area is no exception. So we think it's a unique opportunity to provide a mixture of uses, to provide those retail uses that will serve as services for the residents that live there, as well as those that will come. We believe there will be a demand for the self-storage, and we're going to be able to do that in a way that won't have the tremendous traffic impact that what I would consider kind of a true mixed use would have in this location. Because I think if we were standing before you with a proposal that had a couple 100,000 square feet of non-residential uses here, I think there would be a lot of people who would be expressing concerns associated with traffic and traffic generation for those type of uses. And so with that, I just again wanted to update you on the conditions. And the last thing I'll note is that we have increased the RCA requirements for the site from 25%, which is what the ordinance requires, up to 30%. And so those are the updates to the conditions, and just kind of a little bit of summary in terms of what my client is thinking with respect to development of the site and how he envisions it being able to fit seamlessly with the existing community, but also as the community continues to grow. And with that, we're here to answer any questions that you all may have, and would respectfully request you all support for the case.
Thank you. Any questions?
Do you have any data to justify the need for storage in that area? I mean, other than, I heard what you said, which sounds a little more anecdotal, but I'm curious, do we know how many storage units there are in the geographical area already?
So I did a quick search, and with the exception, actually did a quick search when I got hired, and I saw the public hearing, and I think Councilwoman Dozier, you asked that question, is there a demand? I can't speak to the market demand. I'm not a market expert on these things. The closest locations for self-storage that I could find to the site are the one not far from where we're sitting, and those out on 64. There was not a closer one in terms of radius. I think the closest one as the crow flies was maybe 2.5 miles, but in terms of hopping in the car and going to them, it was closer to 10 to 15 minutes. And that is a far cry from answering the direct question, that is, what is the quote-unquote market for it? It is definitely anecdotal, but I did do a quick search just to see, are there a lot of self-storage in this area? And if you do kind of the Google search for it, you'll see there really isn't a whole lot of self-storage within close proximity to this site.
I'll go next. So thank you. That was a question of mine, and people ask me for a lot of things, like I said last time, and I've never been asked for this. And so I'm just confused, that Mr. Daniel mentioned that he has been asked, but as a council person, I hadn't. So that was kind of stuck out to me. And so and then, you mentioned about like purchasing things online. It's funny because those sites that I'm online, people are like giving things away and getting rid, and they're purging while they're in the house and buying organizational things. So I don't know. I don't know that I have the data to kind of support that. And like you said, you don't really have it either. It's just not kind of what my experience has been, and not my personal, but in talking to my constituency. So for me, I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you, I really like mixed use. I mean, downtowns are original mixed use. I want to see more, bring more services to people, amenities to people, so we're not going all around like this. I just don't, you know, when I asked about jobs, it was like 2 people, maybe even not even at the same time. So I'm trying to figure out how we bring more mixed use that is more of an amenity and more things that people can improve their quality of life and bring more retail or jobs. And so I don't see this but I do appreciate all the aesthetics and all the things you try to address. But I'm just going to tell you that's where I am on the project. I can't support the project because of that piece of it.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Other questions? Okay, thank you. All right, with that, we'll open up public hearing for this item. And I do have signed up Elizabeth Stitt. And you have 4 more people present tonight? Okay, all right. Great.
Yeah, I learned last time I need more than 3 minutes, so I made sure people were here instead of online. So Elizabeth Raystead, 3113 Friendship Road. I think everybody probably knows that by now. So at the last town council meeting, I raised 3 concerns about this project. 2 of those concerns have been resolved. The application has been corrected, and the question as to why Keith Braswell, the planning board member who had recused himself from voting on this application, has been cleared up. I want to publicly thank Keith for giving me a call and taking the time to speak with me. The 3rd concern remains. Is a storage facility the right image or impression for what we want on what is our Main Street? Is it a cohesive design with the Humeala development concept planned for the corner of Holland Road and Old US 1? Does it offer the right kind of services, the right kind of jobs? Does it add quality to our daily lives? After trading several emails and speaking with the applicant, Mr. Joe Klugler, and I want to thank him for taking the time to speak with me, I still do not think that this is the right project for this particular location. On February 25th, when the applicant held the neighborhood meeting, there were a number of concerns that were raised. Those same concerns still remain in place today. And over the weekend, as I shared earlier, we had a community meeting. I have 45 signed letters opposing this particular project. I have those to give to you, but in the 2-page packet that you have, you'll see a sample of what that letter is with a list of concerns. We do want more development, but we want the development to reflect the vibrant character of our community instead of buildings that need to be hidden with 30-foot buffers. I do not know how you put a 3-story building out in our community when our landscape is nothing but 1 or 2 stories. I don't know of any natural buffer that would hide the 3-story buildings behind the retail space that they are proposing. We need development to reflect Friendship's foundational value of inclusivity, where people from many walks of life benefit from the services, rather than serving a few people, which the storage facility would do. It would only serve a few members. We need development that is cohesive, block to block, instead of a mixed bag of architectural contradictions. We need development that enables the town to follow through on expectations set through advanced apex, such as the Humeala development concept. We need development that enables the town to follow through on the realignment of Friendship Road. It was studied, it was paid for, the planning staff recommended it, the planning board voted for it, the town council voted for the realignment of Friendship Road. If you look at page 2 of what I shared with you, at the top you will see where the road is a very faint yellow line. My apologies for Office Depot printing quality. But Friendship Road is slated to shift to the east because we all know what is happening with our traffic out there. The board is approving many different projects, and we're not opposed to that. We all know that we have a problem with the road that's forthcoming, so the town has put forth a plan. But this project does not account for that. So for the town to walk away from that vote just from 8 months ago, it's hard for our community to really trust and understand what the vision is for our community. What good is a plan if you walk away from it? What good is a vote if you walk away from it 8 months later? So on behalf of the Friendship community, I would like to present to you the 45 signed letters and answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Questions? Yes, I'll take them.
You'll take them.
Thank you so much. All right, hearing no questions, we'll close public. Do we have any? I'm sorry.
We have not received any public comments with the actual public comment email, but I wanted to make sure that we did receive an email from Mr. Paul Miller, owner of Vicious Fishes and Downtown Friendship LLC. He stated that he couldn't attend the meeting tonight, and I asked that we forward the email to all town council, which we did. And I just wanted to see if you wanted me to read that for the record or not, since you.
Read for the record, please.
Okay, perfect. Hello all, I am Paul Miller, owner of Vicious Fishes and Downtown Friendship LLC. Regarding tonight's meeting, I wanted to hurry and send you a note regarding my feelings for the proposed storage facility on Friendship Road. I have been in Apex for 28 years now and live in Bella Costa. My wife is a rarity nowadays and went to Balcom, Apex Middle, and graduated from Apex High. She is now a teacher at Apex Friendship. I know and respect the history of the Friendship community and why I formed my development company as Downtown Friendship LLC and the future name of my development. A place everyone is welcome to gather. I have plans for a 22-acre retail, dining, and entertainment district from the corner of 3000 Friendship Road, heading west. 2 parcels we have deeds to, and the rest close either later this year or as progress payments this year and deeds in 2022 to split the proceeds over 2 years for the seller. As the history of Friendship states that it was a crossroads for the stagecoach over 100 years ago, once again, the housing boom in that corridor and plans for the new park, schools, and more have created the need for a new type of crossroads, one that intersects lodging, retail, dining, and entertainment. I wish our plans were more finalized to show you, but our goal is to submit to the town by August. I am creating and filing that need with our project, as you will eventually see on the 22-acre site. I wanted to stress that this storage facility will be detrimental to the overall vibe of that corridor without proper architectural and buffer requirements facing Friendship Road. While I am a business owner and would never want someone opposing my idea for a business, I feel that these important architectural and buffer requirements are not met. That corridor will become more of the same and a bad look for people visiting the schools on Hume Olive, our new district, or exploring the area while attending an event at the new park. As teams from out of state visit Apex for our tournaments at the new fields, they will have the option to explore our amazing historic downtown and my new entertainment district once approved. It is my hope that this town council will look at this corridor as I do and keep that in mind for tonight's vote. Thank you for your time, and please reach out with any questions. I unfortunately cannot make the meeting tonight to address this in person. Regards, Paul Miller, Miller Advertising Group, MAG in parentheses, and with his phone number.
Thanks, Ms.
Thank you. And that was it, sir.
Last one. Okay,
Yes, sir.
Great.
Mr. Mayor, could I just briefly address the Friendship Road issue that was raised by the speaker tonight? There was nothing associated with our development plan that would prevent the town from being able to execute upon its plans. In fact, one of the benefits of the kind of the no-build zone that we've provided with that 400-foot area doesn't put buildings or could require parking in the way of any reconfiguration of Friendship Road. So I just want to be clear, at the time of site plan, if there is additional right-of-way dedication that's going to be necessary in order to facilitate the town's realignment of Friendship Road, this plan will certainly be able to accommodate that. I just wanted to clarify that point.
Thank you so much for that. All right, with that, we'll close public hearing for comments, and the matter is back to council for discussion. Lead to a possible motion. Who wants to kick us off?
You know, I'm looking at the rezoning list on this, all the different proposed uses, and most of them I can see fitting for this general area, and some of the ones are what people want: a convenience store, you know, a lot of different things, retail sales, and office and different things like that. But I truly cannot see a 3-story self-storage unit here in this portion of the community. I just can't.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else?
Maybe I'll chime in. I drive to RTP on 55 from Apex every day, or well, usually used to, I guess. That road has many of these storage units, and they are my least favorite part of the trip. And I honestly, if we never build another one of these in Apex, I'd be happy. So I'm a strong no on this one.
Okay.
And I make a motion to deny.
A second.
All right, we got a motion and a second to deny. Further discussion?
Okay. I think this is a unique moment from what I'm hearing. Like, we have the residents, the neighbors, and the town council advocating for a more intense use here than what's being proposed. And typically that's not what you see. And I'm going to concur with my colleagues and with the neighbors that I think this property is a pretty prime piece of property, especially with Pleasant Park coming down the road in a couple of years, or next year actually it's going to open up. So I think there's a lot of potential here for uses that can serve the community, can serve the patrons of Pleasant Park, and uses that can serve the communities that are being proposed directly adjacent to it. So looking at the list of uses proposed here, I would say that although staff and the planning board and everyone else has kind of said that this follows the 2045 land use map, and I guess it does, I would argue that a tech flex zoning with a self-service storage unit, although it may technically meet it, doesn't meet the spirit of what we're trying to plan here. This is called for a neighborhood kind of business area. So maybe even a B1 zoning would be more appropriate here for some more amenities to the surrounding neighbors. As my colleague said, looking at the list of the uses being asked for, the rest of them are okay. Should we just strike that one use and ask if they want to continue a rezoning and tech flex for there, or should we ask them to go back with the B1?
Well, they got the rule change now that they can come back with something changed pretty quickly. So it's called friendship storage. I'm not sure. It kind of changes the whole. We can do what we want, I guess, or we can entertain motions, change it. But
I guess if what we're saying is the self-storage specifically is what we object to, we should ask the question for the applicant if they want to move forward without. If we're willing to approve it without that use, would that be something the applicant's still interested in? Do you want to go back to the drawing board?
My client is picking up the sense that the self-storage use doesn't have a lot of support from the council. And to answer your question, Councilman Mahaffey, my client believes in the site, believes in the non-residential use opportunity here, and would be willing to strike the self-storage use in order to preserve the entitlements associated with the tech flex zoning that's before you tonight. And we would offer that as essentially an amendment to the conditions and strike that use.
Would you be interested in starting over? Because it sounds like maybe a B1 could be approved, or some more intense uses if that's what. It sounds like that's what.
I mean, I guess either or. If there's an opportunity to go ahead and take care of that tonight, that would, my guess would be my client's preference to avoid having to go back through the process again, just in terms of filing fees and things associated with that, as well as neighborhood meetings, even though he's been in contact with the neighborhood. But, if it's you all's case, it's you all's motion at this point, but we would be happy to amend our conditions to eliminate the self-storage use.
If we're going to go that route, can we can we get a crossover of what the B1 would allow versus what's on this list and what it wouldn't allow, Lauren, real quick? Or something, is that possible to have that Venn diagram?
Yeah. Ms. Ken, can I hear from you on that, please?
Is the question which uses are in Tech Flex, which is before you tonight, that are the same as in B1? Because we can't change to B1 tonight. They do have to start all the way over. But is the question which Tech Flex uses are also in B1? I actually have it printed out. So
Yeah.
I feel like that's the second question.
I feel like the way I'm thinking about it is what uses could be added to this to make it more intense.
Not adding.
Yeah.
We cannot add uses because it was not advertised that way. Okay, sorry.
You had a comment? Mayor
Yeah,
Pro
I'm
Tem?
just trying to figure this out. I mean, trying to do it in the best way for everyone, for all stakeholders. And I think, like you said, it was called a storage facility. And so to do this tonight without the neighborhood really focus on any of these other ones kind of feels a little bit off to me. I don't know if that's the right way to do it tonight. It sounds like a rush to me, but I'd like to do whatever we can to make it better. But I just feel like neighbors are focusing on that use. I think that's, maybe I'm wrong about that, but I don't know if I want to think that whether they are okay with certain uses here that maybe they want. I don't know. I don't want to speak for the neighbors.
Yeah, I would like to deal with what we have tonight in front of us, and then we can.
Yeah, that's
focus
a
on it
lot
later.
for me.
Yeah. So with that, we have a motion and a second to deny the rezoning. Any other discussion before we take a vote?
So, my objection was to the self-storage here, mainly because we're hearing from the neighbors, we're hearing from the community saying, no, we do not want that. So everything else in here, I did not hear any concerns about any of the other rezoning uses to this area. In fact, there were comments about wanting some of these other uses. So my preference is to move forward with this, striking that one use that they've said they do not want.
Anyone else?
But then what? I'm trying to.
Right. I think.
I'd like to. I want to see the big picture of what we would be approving, and so I'm uncomfortable with that.
When can they, if we deny it tonight for the storage, when can they come back with something different?
Tomorrow.
Excuse me?
Tomorrow.
Okay.
They'd have to start the process over again and reapply.
I just want to understand that.
I just need more clarity on what we're doing and have people really,
So they would have to start the process over, which begins with a neighborhood meeting, and they have a 14-day notice. So you would be looking, it'd probably be, right, it would be an August submittal.
Well, do we have the answer of, I guess the more clarifying question for me is, what is on this list of proposed use besides storage that is not in the B1 category? Do we have that? Because that would be helpful just as the perspective. I was such a hard no. I wasn't even thinking about anything else tonight.
I don't know what it was called.
Yeah.
So I need the list because I know that's not all the uses were included. right, so daycare facility, drop-in or short-term daycare.
This is the list of what's not in B1 and is in.
Oh, no, it's what is. It's going to be hard, okay.
Okay, yeah, you can do it that way, however you want. This is,
You want to know what's in B1 that they aren't including? It would be accessory apartment, church or place of worship, school, public or private.
no, I'm sorry. What I want to know is what is in B1, what's not in B1 is in this list.
I don't know
I'm
that
assuming
I can-
self-storage is one of those categories.
I know, I'm not sure I can do that.
Okay.
I mean, that's the more difficult thing to be able to answer.
Can I put it this way? Maybe a broader question is, if what we're interested in is a more neighborhood amenity type of uses that the surrounding neighbors and future people are building there can use as a destination, restaurants and, a gas station, would B1 or Tech Flex be the more appropriate direction to point the landowner towards for their development plans, in your opinion?
That was, so if I can go through each one, what's already in B1, that would be, if they're both in both districts, it's an appropriate B1 use. So if that's okay, that I can do that right now. That's the way I can do this. So, so the uses that are in both this zoning application and in B1, so they are appropriate B1 uses, include daycare facility, drop-in or short-term daycare, government service, veterinary clinic or hospital, vocational school, utility minor, wireless support structure, wireless communication facility, botanical garden, entertainment indoor, Greenway, park active, park passive, youth or day camps. So I hit the first one that's not allowed in B1, which is commissary. All right, so, and then I'm going to go back to what is in both. Restaurant drive-through. Oh, sorry. That's one that's in B1 that's not allowed on this rezoning. Restaurant general are in both, but in this rezoning it's a special use permit, whereas in B1 it would just be allowed. Okay, so this dispatching office that's in the zoning is not allowed in B1. Okay, this use is allowed in both. It's medical or dental office or clinic. And then medical or dental laboratory is a special use permit in B1, but would just be allowed by this rezoning. Office, business, or professional are allowed in both. And then the next one, research facility, is not allowed in B1. And then there are several uses that are allowed in B1 that are not on this list and potentially wouldn't be allowed. Parking garage, parking lot commercial, hotel or motel. And then we're back to ones that are allowed in both. Artisan studio, but it does require a special use permit in the B1 district. It's allowed by right in the proposed district. So convenience store is allowed in both. Convenience store with gas sales is allowed in both. Now there are some that that are not proposed or allowed in Techlex that are allowed in B1, including dry cleaners and laundry service, farmers market, financial institution, floral shop, funeral home, greenhouse or nursery retail. So all of those are only allowed in B1. Now we're back to what would be allowed in both. Grocery general, grocery specialty, health fitness center or spa. Okay, there are a few in B1 that are not allowed in Tech Flex, including laundromat, newsstand or gift shop. And then we're back to being allowed in both as personal service. The next one is not allowed in this rezoning. It would be allowed in B1, it's pharmacy. The next one, they both are allowed to have printing and copying service. They're both allowed to have real estate sales. They're both allowed to have repair services limited. So the proposed rezoning includes retail sales, bulky goods, which is not allowed in the B1 district. The next one is retail sales general, which is allowed in both, but this is proposed to have only a percentage. Is it 30%? So in B1, you can have 100% retail sales general. They both allow studio for art. They both allow tailor shop. B1 would allow theater, whereas it's not allowed in TechFlex. They both allow upholstery shop. They both allow pet services. Okay.
Yeah, are you?
There's still another 10.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
I don't think it'll be that hard because most of these are not allowed. So if you're following along in the staff report on page 204, number 40 is automotive accessory sales and installation. That's not allowed in B1. Repair and maintenance general, not allowed in B1. Vehicle inspection center is allowed in B1. Laboratory industrial research is not allowed in B1. In fact, all the rest are not allowed in B1 except for microbrewery.
Is this list of uses in the staff report, is that exactly the allowed uses in TechFlex, or have we dropped some before we came here?
We did drop some.
Okay.
Some of our high-intense uses for TechFlex.
You mean behind it's like the more like industrial-y ones?
Right, more or less than.
Yeah, okay.
You have the original motion.
There weren't too, I mean, there were some that I think could be struck potentially that I think were non-overlap ones that I don't know what the appeal is to the applicant.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And to Mayor Pro Tem's point, it sounds like at a certain point we're kind of micromanaging here, like at the table.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm fine.
I'm just trying to give a way forward for the applicant because I think the most of what they're applying here, because the message here isn't that no one's saying don't build anything. Right. We're kind of have an opinion about what type of services and amenities we want to provide to the area. And looking through the list and going through it, like there's some other ones I think I want to strike before I approve it as well, like manufacturing.
Yeah.
You know. I agree. I think to make it
research.
cleaner. Oh, sorry. more clean. You know, for clarity's sake. And like you said, there are other things here. I think it's better to stick with the original motion with the intent on understanding and what we're looking for.
I'm fine with that, and I think there's obviously it would be a different kind of neighborhood meeting, maybe a
exactly
more useful one for what maybe is coming next, that they could weigh the various things. Yeah, I understand that there's a cost to it, and I don't like that, but
yeah.
It is a pretty major gateway to Apex, and getting it right, I think, is important to us.
Amazing.
To me.
You guys convinced me. I think the neighbors should have an input on the B1 list and see.
Mr. Townman?
Yes.
I just want to make a comment, if I can. Hearing Mr. Mahaffey and maybe what he's thinking, and also what Ms. Dozier's thinking. If, as Diane pointed out, if there's going to be a complete rezoning classification, it has to go back through. If it's just a matter of striking and wanting to get the list kind of to where you can see it, you can continue this and allow it to come back if it's just striking uses that have already been advertised. So I just want to point that out so that it may not have to go back through the process. But now if you're wanting to add anything, then it's still going to have to go back through the process. But I just want to point out, as far as the list that's already been advertised, you can strike that and just continue. They can clean it up, bring it back at the next one if that's what council want to do. I apologize. So I just wanted to bring that.
Basically what changed my mind listening to all these uses coming out, because I'm just thinking, yes, it is a gateway. You're right. It is an area that I think the neighbors need more input on what's going on in here. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So what do we need to do, withdraw the original?
No, I think the original motion is the one we're going
Yeah,
with.
there's no
And,
motion besides mine, I guess.
Okay.
Okay. So are we thinking that we would strike some of these, particularly if the community most impacted wanted us to strike some? Or do you think that they may add some, or we may add some?
I think both might be part of the process. That's why I think it might be good to go back through a neighborhood meeting, get input from the community on these other uses, because I think somebody said earlier, people were so focused on not wanting a storage unit that nothing else was really looked at very closely, and I think we need to give them opportunity.
So let's go with that then.
And I'll point out to the applicant and the owners that, I mean, what we're saying is you might have an opportunity to add uses. If you switch to a B1, there's some stuff you can pull in and perhaps have a different type of development more in line with our discussions. So it's not all bad, I guess is what I'm saying. You can go both ways. And I think the neighbors may have, that's when getting the neighbors involved and having a neighborhood discussion about what type of uses they would like to see there. Because I do think that if we're providing amenities for people, it sounds like there might be some support for the neighbors to do something here.
All right, and not to belabor the point, and definitely appreciate you all's edification. If nothing else, I have to point out the obvious, and that is, and the feedback is incredible and definitely helpful to my client. A couple things. We could still conduct a neighborhood meeting with respect to the existing application and meet with the neighbors if the case were tabled and make a determination as to whether there are uses in there that should be kind of pared back based upon neighborhood expectations, and then come back with a revised list after that neighborhood meeting without having to restart the case. I've got a concern associated with restarting the case just from a resource allocation standpoint. Also, this is great feedback from this council. If we file in August, there's no guarantee that we're going to be standing in front of this council with respect to a refiled zoning application, just given the fact that there is an election ahead of us in the fall. And so I just want to point out the obvious, that this is incredibly valuable feedback if there's an opportunity to kind of make it right in the short term rather than banking on what's going to happen in the long term. Happy to do it either way, but my preference would be, if it's possible, if you all are inclined, to table the case while we have a neighborhood meeting. If it turns out that the neighborhood's expectations are different, or we take a look at B1 and say, you know what, B1's where we want to be, then we can withdraw the case. We would like the opportunity to kind of jump through that hoop at least one more time before we're denied and then are forced to go back through a months-long zoning process. Again, it's you all's prerogative, it's you all's inclination, but that would be our preference.
So if we table this for a month, are you committing to having another neighborhood meeting to discuss the uses beyond self-storage?
Yep.
So I think what I hear you saying, though, if there are uses that are outside of this, then you will bring those to us as well. And I think
it can't be added, right?
That's what I'm saying.
We would have to withdraw the case at that point.
Right. But I'm saying, so you're asking us, because what if they don't have additional one? Then we can keep on going. So that is the beauty in doing and tabling it is, what if the neighborhood doesn't add any? We can keep on going. But if they do, then you withdraw it.
Right. I mean, if the neighborhood's expectations are that there's a litany of uses permitted in B1 that is not permitted in the text like this in front of you, that's a problem, because then we're going to be standing back in front of you with respect to a zoning case that we don't have neighborhood support for. So that's exactly right.
Well, what I heard was things added that could be added were less important than things that could be taken away. When I heard that list together, personally, so I'm actually okay tabling, and especially if there's a commitment to a neighborhood meeting.
Tabling meaning continuing.
Continuing.
Yeah.
Sorry, continuing.
Yeah,
That's what I meant. That's what I meant. Yeah.
I'm okay with that, with your commitment.
Yep.
So what date do we need to talk about then?
Is there a time frame that I guess that you would need, or that's appropriate?
I mean, realistically, just thinking out loud, I don't know if a month is a realistic time frame in order to have a neighborhood meeting, get constructive feedback, and then come up with a revised set of conditions that would be back in front of you.
Well, you all have an agenda item that says you would like to cancel your July 13th meeting. I would suggest July 27th.
July 27th sounds good to us.
Okay.
Okay.
July 27th.
See you
All right,
then.
well,
Great.
I
Thank
will
you all.
amend the motion to
Thank you.
continue till July 27th.
Okay,
And second.
all right.
Yeah, with the expectation there'll be a neighborhood meeting as
Like,
part of that
to the
discussion.
permitted uses.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, it passed unanimously. Thank you. Appreciate y'all working that out. That was great. All right.
Thank you, Diane, for the that list. That was appreciated, even though it was long.
All right, public hearing 3, Miss Amanda Bunce.
Let's be quick. The applicant has withdrawn the application so that they may file a conditional use rezoning and start the process from the beginning.
All right, no action. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, we move on to public hearing 4. Ms. Jenna Shells.
Hi, good evening. Here presenting for public hearing number 4, proposed amendments to the Unified Development Ordinance regarding electric vehicle charging stations. So some background information on the EV charging requirements. Back in 2018, staff completed a comprehensive update to Section 8.3 of the UDO, the off-street parking and loading section. And at the time, we looked at EV parking requirements, but decided to hold off for the most part on adding EV requirements until more information became available and until we saw an increase in EV adoption. As part of this round of amendments, staff have prepared a memo that includes EV charging information as well as the proposed requirements for amending the UDO. And this memo has been reviewed by town staff in multiple departments, as well as the planning board on May 10th. And one note about, the planning board recommendation, or they unanimously recommended approval, but that included draft recommendations. There have since been a couple of amendments that staff recommend based on the feedback that we received from the development community stakeholders. And the development community stakeholders reviewed the proposed amendments from May 4th to May 11th. And so at the Environmental Advisory Board meeting, I presented the revised amendments based on the feedback that we received from the development community. So just want to make it clear that planning board saw the draft version, and there were a couple changes that went to the Environmental Advisory Board, and they also unanimously recommended approval of the proposed amendments. And the reason why we're proposing to include EV charging stations as a UDO amendment is because it's much less expensive to install EV charging stations as part of new construction in comparison to retrofitting.
Can you tell us what that difference might be?
Like the cost? I have it in my memo. Let's see. I found a few examples. I'm getting lost. So on page 4 of the memo, there are 3 site examples. And then the first one is for a Town of Apex electric operations site. So these will be installed as part of new construction, and the total cost for that was $15,733. And then also received a quote from the Town of Cary, but this was just for the electrical and site work, not the actual charging station. And that's a retrofit. So just for the site work was $6,700. And then the Moore Square parking deck, and then the City Center parking deck in Raleigh, that would have been adding 2 level 2 charging spaces, 1 in each parking deck, was $40,000. And then I spoke with, I want to find the exact number.
You said 40,000?
Yes.
It's basically 3 to 4 times as much.
And a big thing is on page 3, when you look at the equipment installation cost, it's the cable from the electrical room to each charging station. The cost varies for between 15 and 50 feet, depending on the surface that you have to go under, if you're just going under grass or pavement or concrete. And also if you have to expand the power capacity of that building to be able
to get the power to that station is a big cost in the retrofit, if that needs to be done. But that's not always the case, is my understanding.
Okay, thank you.
Does that kind of answer you? Okay.
It does.
So some more background on these proposed amendments is that the proposed amendments are to 3 sections of the UDO: Section 8.3 off-street parking and loading, Section 8.4.3 community amenities, and Section 12.2 terms defined. Currently, the UDO requires 2 EV spaces in each parking structure, and the goals of these UDO amendments are to prepare for the increased use of electric vehicles while avoiding unnecessary parking and to support the town's sustainability initiatives. Some electric vehicle and charging data. The North Carolina Department of Transportation forecasts that there will be between 250 and 350 electric vehicles in the state by 2030. And there have been some studies that have looked at where people charge most often their electric vehicles, and most charging occurs at home, followed by work. And again, it's less expensive to install the EV charging infrastructure as part of new construction in comparison to retrofit. And then a couple environmental facts is that there's a 78% reduction in the carbon emissions per electric vehicle compared to a gasoline-powered vehicle. And there's an $804 average annual energy savings for EV owners in comparison to a gasoline-powered vehicle owner. And there are 3 types of charging stations: level 1, level 2, and the DC fast charger. So this table kind of gives a quick snapshot of the differences between the 3 types of chargers. So level 1 is the most simple. You can use a regular residential outlet, and for 1 hour of charging, you get between a 2 and 5 mile range in your EV, and the typical cost is between $300 and $1,500 for the level 1, and level 1 charging would not be required under the proposed UDO amendments. Level 2 charging is the most common type of EV charging, and a 1 hour charge will get you between a 10 and 20 mile range in your vehicle, and the typical cost is around $3,500, and the level 2 would be required under the proposed amendments. The 3rd type of charger is the DC fast charging, and this is the fastest charger fastest charging type that's on the market, and 20 minutes of charge will get you about a 60 mile range. And the typical cost really varies for these. They can be very expensive, but the average is around $30,000. And the DC fast charging wouldn't be required under the proposed amendments, but it would be an option to meet the minimum requirement. The level 2 would be the required type. Okay, so getting into the proposed EV charging space requirements. So the requirement is based on the minimum motor vehicle parking requirement. So if less than 11 spaces are required, then there's no EV charging space requirement. If 11 to 49 spaces are required, then there would be 1 required EV-ready space, but no EV charging spaces. And an EV-ready space is where all the electrical equipment and underground work is installed, so you can go in and install the actual charging unit. And then if 50 or more motor vehicle spaces are required, then you've reached the threshold where the EV charging space will be required. So the EV-ready plus the actual charging unit would need to be installed. And here are the 2 updates that staff recommend since the planning board recommendation. So based on the feedback that we received from the development community, we're proposing to exempt affordable multifamily and apartments from this requirement, and then to add a condition that no more than 10 EV spaces shall be required for a single development. And then this table about the minimum motor vehicle parking requirement, and then the EV would only apply to uses in this table. So back to the EV charging habit studies, most people charge, or based on those studies, the findings in those studies, most people charge either at home or at work. So we focused on uses where people work, live, or where they spend a lot of time. And the minimum number of required EV spaces is 3% for most of the uses, with a few exceptions, and I'll call out those exceptions. The first is commercial uses. So rather than having that 50 space threshold, we've increased it to 100, so that this requirement would only apply to large commercial use sites. The next exception is park, active or passive. Reduce that, or that's proposed to 2% instead of the others, which are 3. And then parking structures at schools, we're proposing to keep that at 2 spaces, as oftentimes the spaces in the parking structures are where students park, and they often operate under a permit system, so we don't want to interfere with that too much with the EV parking requirement. And then finally, for high schools in the off-street parking lot, we're proposing for that to be 1% of all the spaces as EV, as those are typically very large parking lots, but it's also where staff typically park, so we thought that's a better fit for the EV spaces. And then for the proposed accessible EV space requirements, so the EV spaces would need to be signed but not marked as accessible. And so the first EV space would need to be van accessible, but it wouldn't need to be limited to handicapped vehicles. But so it's still first come, first serve, anyone with an electric vehicle. But if they have that need, it would work for them. But it's not signed, it's handicap only, is what's proposed. And then the UDO amendments include a number of standards for the EV charging spaces, and they're included in your packet, but just I have a summary here, just quickly run through. So the EV charging spaces may count as a community amenity if they're not required, and they shall be used to meet the minimum parking requirement. And there are some specific standards regarding the location and the design of the spaces, as well as the proximity to plantings, and that the spaces shall be level 2 or DC fast charging, and that they shall be posted with signage, and that the town does not restrict the property owner from collecting a fee for usage of the charging equipment. Okay, so now I can like to open up for comments and questions, and I have the the detailed standards that are in the packet as hidden slides in case you'd like to look at them on the screen.
What would be some examples of some of the fees that might be charged?
Or say if you want to charge, if you mean like the dollar amount, I found, let's see, there was a city in Colorado that was going to charge $1 per hour, but I found that in North Carolina now they're allowed to charge per kilowatt hour, not just the time, so it can vary, however much you want to charge.
Can you speak to why why you only had one required between 51 and 99 spaces for the EV ready spots for commercial and not 2?
Why one rather than 2?
Yeah.
I think I hope you can hear me. We didn't want to make the burden too high for the smaller developments, but have it set up so they can come in and install the charger if they see the need for that in the future.
Okay, but it seems like it's already good between 11 and 49, and I was like, it actually seemed a little redundant to do. It called out 11 to 99, and I was like, we already got 11 through 49 covered. And then I thought maybe there should be 2 between 51 and 99, 2 EV readies.
For commercial sites?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what you're looking at. Okay.
Yeah.
I see what you mean.
Yeah. Actually, I think it should be that between 51 and 99. If we're going to do this, I think it should be 2 EV ready spots to be required between 51 and 99 motor vehicle spots.
For just commercial or overall?
Yeah. Well, that's the only one that kind of had a different thing from the rest. And EV ready is less than the charger anyway because it's just the stuff in the ground, not the actual charging.
Yeah, looking at the larger uses, but
Because they're gonna build a 99. They're gonna build a 99 space thing with that. Well, they might anyway, but.
Aren't the number of parking spaces based just on the retail space?
I think
I think they can't say I'm only doing 99 spaces. Then
Oh yeah.
how many parking spaces are going to be?
They might size their building.
No, I don't think the size of building based on a couple $1,000s.
I think one consideration for the commercial is that there's a lot of turnover when you're at a commercial site. It's not a place where you typically spend a lot of time. So we increased it to if the minimum parking requirement is 100. So
I get that part.
Oh, you do? Okay.
I get that part.
No.
It's the part that EV ready between less than 100, and specifically between 51 and 99.
Okay.
I thought it should be 2.
Okay.
Personally.
I don't think you're wrong. I just don't want to split hairs at this point.
I think the EV ready spots are the underrated thing here, not just the chargers, but to get it ready. Because it's so much easier to put the charger afterwards. That's why I focused on the EV ready part a little bit. I was like, it's like the conduit for solar. That's the equivalent I thought of it as, personally.
Do you want to change the 1 to a 2?
Yeah,
under commercial
I do.
uses?
I do. And it would be are required, not is. It'd be plural.
Any other questions?
I had a philosophical one though, if you guys are okay with that. So we got a memo about the legality of all this, and that made me nervous a little bit when I read it. And have you guys thought about a more carrot approach than stick, which this would be? And specifically, I was thinking, I don't know if this actually would be a carrot, is you can, something like reducing the minimum number of parking spots for each charger they put in, such that, especially a free one, I think would be better. But like, the carrot would be they can make their parking, yeah, you count the spot as a minimum and also reduce it by the number of charging stations.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we jump in here? After the public hearing is open and closed, why don't we go and consult with the town attorney?
Okay.
Let's do that. That's good.
I know, you had the memo, but I think that would be, I had more questions too. Okay. Okay. But there wasn't a thought about a carrot approach versus, was there a debate to begin with about requirements versus incentives?
Or one thing about what you mentioned about if you add an EV space and then remove one, because that's one thing that I thought of, but then a kind of counter to that was it's not really a one-to-one, like having an EV space doesn't cause less people to visit the site.
True.
So it doesn't really change the parking demand, just something to consider.
I know. It
Yeah.
would just be, but it would save the money in the parking lot construction is what I was thinking about.
Anyone else?
I mean, it might be something that the Environmental Advisory Board can make recommendations after we've discussed this a little farther about possible trade-off incentives, what might be appropriate for that. Just a thought.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Hearing none. We'll open up public hearing for comments at this time. Mike Solo.
Thank you to the Town Council and Mayor for hearing me to speak tonight. I would like to encourage the council to adopt more of these EV charging and to think longer term. When we talk about these EV-ready spaces and putting the conduit or cables in the ground, where will we be in 5 or 10 years when we've got 20 or 30% of people driving electric cars? Especially heinous, I think, is the exception for apartment buildings, because this is where people will be charging the majority of their time. As said in the presentation, people are charging at home 60% of the time and the other 30% of the time at work. So if we want to facilitate the transition into an electrical vehicle fleet here in Apex, we need to have much more strict requirements, and especially for the EV ready and things looking more forward than is in this proposal. Thank you very much.
So if you could, for the record, just give me your address, please.
Oh, yes. Mike Sola, 2102 Charlene Downs.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right. Ms. Schaus, any other comments for? Okay. All right. All right. I'll close public hearing for comments at this time. And what would you like to do, Mayor Pro Tem?
To make a motion to go into a closed session to consult with the town attorney.
I'll second that.
All right. Motion second. Discussion. All right. We vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right. We're going into closed session. Back live? Okay, thanks. All right, thank you. We're now in discussion. We'll close public hearing for comments, so we'll go back to discussion. And we have any questions for Ms. Schaus? I think we may have some questions for her. So if you will come back up, I'm sorry. Yeah. I think there were a few questions for you. Anyone?
I think there was another question about churches. What category, or do they fit in any of these categories?
We don't have churches proposed. I'm trying to think. That might be a good one to add since people spend a couple of hours there. I think that's something to consider. I think that makes
So
sense.
if the use is not on this list, they have no requirement?
Right.
Okay, so a church would have no requirement then?
Right.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I just want to make some comments to staff to thank for all the work that you guys have put into this over the past few months and years. So I'm really happy to see this come forward. I think this is us being very proactive and putting on the ground a piece of necessary infrastructure for transportation in the future. My request is I'd like to revisit this after, well, I'm hoping we pass this tonight. And if so, I'd like to revisit this in a year or so to discuss what levels are here, how is it working, what type of developments are we seeing. I'm a little concerned that people might try to game the system like Councilmember Kent said, try to find a way to get 99 spaces so they don't do that. But I'm really pleased to see this come forward. So thank you for all your work.
I think it would be nice to track where all of these spaces might be. When people put in the EV ready sites or they actually put in those chargers, it would be nice to have kind of a map of where they are.
That'd be great.
And there's some apps that do that, so maybe
they have a little celebration.
Yes.
In Brett's car.
No, so it's people who are driving through town or who want to visit a business can know where EV ready spots are for them.
All right. Good work. Good work. Y'all ready to vote?
Well, can I, some kind of incentive structure for folks to go above and beyond this, I think would also be useful if we're going to go, if we do think it's going to be a big industry change in the next 5 and 10 years, that a lot of people have these cars. I think I think this is a kind of a modest step as we were talking about in there, and I think the parking minimum thing could be a thing where I'm actually increasingly skeptical of parking minimums to be overall anyway. So, even though we did change it with your good work a couple years ago, but incentives. Think about incentives that we could have to go above and beyond would be the next step, I think, to get a 5% or 10%.
Can I add?
Pickup.
I think that would be a good thing to put to the EAB because these are, it's in the UDO and we always do conditional zoning. So this could be something they could, have a condition for to potentially raise or reduce the requirement.
Yeah, I think that's great. Yeah, staff and then EAB, I think would be a good audience for that.
We all gonna hit our buttons here?
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me get mine. No, we're good. Okay.
Somebody got it.
Yep.
Okay, great. Any other comments?
I also reiterate, I think between 51 and 99, we should have 2 EV ready spots also.
Let's do it.
Okay.
50.
Is there a motion?
I motion that we approve by, with one change of making the commercial use 2 EV ready spaces between 11 and 99.
51 and 99.
Okay.
They can,
You're right.
between, like everybody else, between 11 and 49, and then once they go above 50, between 50 and 100, I think 2.
I got you.
Requirement.
Did that make sense? Can we do that right now? Or do we have to write it down?
I second it.
So to make sure, Steph.
We just changed this. Yeah, we can vote.
2 EV ready spaces are required if 51 to 99 motor vehicle spaces are required.
And just change this.
Fi-
50.
Yeah.
11 to 40.
Oh, 50, yes.
11 to
50, sorry.
49 is 1, and 50 to 99 is 2.
Sorry, yes.
And
Not
so
51.
now they're going to do 49 and do 1 because of this.
That may be.
These people are smart. They're going to find the loopholes.
I would, but whatever. EV ready is significantly less investment than the
I think
charging
I
station
heard a
itself.
motion by Councilmember
second it.
Haffey, second.
Who seconded? Mr.
I second it.
Okay. All right, no further discussion, right? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, we got to win. Thank you.
So on track.
All right, public hearing 5. Mr. Michael Deaton, Water Resources Director, public hearing to receive citizen input on proposed stormwater utility fees set to go in effect on January 1, 2022.
All right. Good evening.
Good evening.
Mayor, members of the council. I was just checking my phone because I was hoping to give you some good news about the hockey game. I don't know if you want to hear or not.
I need to hear. What is it?
It was 1-0 in the second period, so we got some time.
So, rally.
Brent here, he should
Yeah.
be there.
He was out there, right? It'd be a different story. Yeah.
All right, so this is a required public hearing to establish a stormwater utility fee in the state of North Carolina. Got a few slides here, won't take very long, but pretty much just want to go over a quick summary of how we got to this point, the actual fees that are being proposed, and then the next steps to actually get it implemented should you decide to choose to do so. This is the timeline. We had the annual retreat back in February 2021. That's where we talked about, wanting to move forward with a tiered rate system that was more equitable. The more impervious you have, the more you pay. We moved on to the finance committee where that was discussed. The budget workshops, we talked about it there. And then in May, we began to do the impervious delineations. And I've got an update here in a minute. I'll let you know about that. But that started. We're 25% of the way through right now, all the residential. We've done all the non-residential. So, it's a little over 5,000 individual parcels that we've, delineated, very meticulously. And I want to thank our GIS staff here at Water Resources. They're taking time out of their normal job responsibilities, doubling up and trying to get these done before that implementation date. So they're doing a great job. I totally have no concern with them finishing the job in time. So I do want to point that out. They're doing a great job.
Tell them thank you.
And then tonight here, we're at the public hearing. Like I said, it's required by state law. And then in October, we think we'll be finished with our GIS work. We have a pretty big task to work with New World and integrating that information into the billing system. We have an ordinance that has to be approved too this fall. We don't suspect any of those will be significant problems. So January 1, 2022, stormwater fee implementation in Apex is on schedule. So again, this is the general statutes that gives over 90 municipalities in the state of North Carolina the authority for implementing stormwater utility fees. Those requirements are a public notice, which a couple of weeks ago we put an advertisement in the News and Observer to fulfill that 7-day public notice requirement. Tonight's public hearing is a requirement, and then of course the ordinance that I just mentioned. That ordinance will describe the definitions, the applicability of the ordinance, payment provisions, and any appeal procedure process. That'll be in that ordinance, among some other things, I'm sure. So this is the residential rate example that we've seen throughout this process. Nothing's changed since the last time you've seen it. Like I said, we're still going through those parcels. We're 25% of the way through. I would point out that those categories, the small, medium, large, extra large, those square footages that you see in there, those could shift a little bit depending on the final outcome of our impervious delineations. But at this point, we don't suspect any major changes. I would imagine that if something did happen and we needed to come back and adjust the fees for whatever reason, we could do that with another public hearing. I believe legal has said that that would be acceptable, obviously prior to the January 1 implementation date, but we don't foresee that being necessary. So again, the monthly rates stayed the same, $1.50 for the small, up to $10 for the extra large. And you can see the annual rates. Again, they have not changed since the last time you saw them. I do want to point out, though, this analysis of the GIS work, it came up with an ERU, that equivalent residential unit. That is another possibility. If that fluctuates a little low or high, that could impact that monthly rate. But right now, what we've got set up is a balanced budget. This is a non-residential rate example. Again, this hasn't changed. We gave you kind of the impact from small non-residential properties, average non-residential properties, and then the larger non-residential properties. You can see their monthly rates, their annual fee, and that's all based on that equivalent residential unit. So if that number goes up or down, that could influence the amount of revenue, which again would lead us back here to possibly tweak the numbers, but we don't foresee that happening. But we'll know that for sure in October. But the way it stands right now, we feel pretty good about that. So this is just a comparison of what we're proposing here and comparing it to City of Durham, Town of Holly Springs, City of Raleigh. You can see Holly Springs has a flat fee structure, and this goes back to the retreat where we wanted to propose a tiered rate system. You can see their ERU is around 2,700, which makes us feel a little bit more confident in our numbers. You get the City of Durham and then Raleigh, they have a tiered system. Their costs range from $3.50 up to $14.52 in Durham, $2.20 to $15.95 in Raleigh. We're on the low end for the small category and a little low on the large. So again, those numbers work out with the ERU being 2,700 and the categories staying generally the same. So next steps, I've already alluded to this. We've got 5,200 residential properties delineated, which represents approximately 25% of all the work that we have left. Non-residential, that is complete, and as new development comes in and we CO, those plats come in with the impervious already on there. So we don't have to go back out, survey, or do that GIS work. The development community is providing us that. Same thing on residential COs too, as new development comes in. Finalize that tier structure for residential, approve the stormwater utility ordinance. Public engagement is going to be key here. We have a plan to notify customers later this summer, early fall. We plan to update our websites and also work with Stacey Galloway for social media, getting that out. So, and then we're open to suggestions to anything else that you think would be beneficial. We're open to that. And then obviously the billing integration is that last step, and then collecting the fee January 1, 2022. So with that, I'll answer any questions or comments that you may have, or we're open up to public hearing.
I just want to say I appreciate the work that y'all put into this, because when we first started talking about this, our biggest concern was that flat rate, everyone being charged the same amount across the board. So at least that's what I've heard from the fellow council members. So I appreciate seeing the tiers, the work that you put into balancing out the levels and the different tiers. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I would agree. And is Durham and Raleigh's system tiered similar to ours?
I believe it is. I don't think the categories are named the same, but they're generally 4 to 5 categories. Durham may have 3, but it's in that 3 to 5 range.
Anyone else? Questions?
Yes, I mean, I chime in. I did this exact work when I was in college for Durham, and it was very tedious. So hopefully we can take those guys out, or guys and girls out to dinner or something. When this is all done in October. I really got into it was a podcast back then. It was just This American Life. I listened to the entire series when I was doing this because I had to just focus on focus on this task, and it was tedious. So they deserve some kudos at the end of this.
Absolutely.
But this is the one time you do this, and then it should be much more less of a lift going forward, I guess, right?
As new development comes in, we'll have those numbers already.
Yeah.
And I think we mentioned it during the retreat and some of those subsequent workshops, but we're planning to not keep up with it daily, weekly, monthly, but rather do a true up every few years to catch that up, because there may be some homeowners who add a garage or screen porch, that adds a few hundred square feet, and it's just keeping up with that day in and day out can be, again, more administration, which I don't think that's the intent of this utility fee. We want to pay for our existing services and possibly additional level of services in the future, but not pay for just more staff and more admin and more ways to create work. So that's not the intent.
Thank you.
Ms. Dean, I thank you for your work, and I'm interested in the creative public awareness that you do.
Okay.
I'm recommending Councilman Gant to do a video or something. I don't know. Let's say something here.
We can arrange that.
Yeah, let's get him in there. Anyways, with that, any other questions, comments? We'll open up public hearing for this item. No one is signed up for comments, so we'll close public hearing, and we are clear. Thank you. All right, moving on to new business 1. Mr. Tom Cowell, Chair of Public Art Committee. Possible motion to approve the Unity mural project and location.
Thank you for giving me a few minutes to speak to you again about public art. I greatly appreciate that. And I also just want to start out by saying I'm very proud and honored to be on the same agenda as the proclamations for Juneteenth and Pride. Thank you very much for doing that. For the Unity mural, this is a new project that we're thinking about doing, and this really started about a year ago with a group of students, young adults that were involved in some of the social justice movement that was gaining momentum last year. And they came up with an idea, concept to do a piece of art in town, and it's kind of evolved since then. And what we have to talk about today is a project basically around the theme of unity that we could do in partnership between a student equity group at Apex High School, the Apex Police Department, and the public art team. So the students did a very brief video, and we'll see if this is actually going to work, so we'll give it a go to listen to that. They would have liked to have been here tonight, but were unable to attend due to some school commitments here in the final weeks of school. So very thoughtful group, and I'm really happy to be working with them. The idea here is to go out to a call for artists, bringing in a professional artist to work with this group of students, and then also the Apex Police Department to kind of talk about the concepts of the ideas around the mural, and then come up with a design concept that we would then install in downtown. And the install would also include participation by the student group and the police department. So that's the idea at this point. The process will take about 6 months, and so we hope to get it in this year if we get approval to move forward. But depending on weather, because we're going to get started pushing towards the end of the year, you never know, we could be looking at springtime, but we'll be as aggressive as we can. The call for artists gets posted for a minimum of 2 months, and so that process alone will take about a quarter of the year. And the location that we're looking at, the proposed location is this 103 East Chatham Street building. So this backs up to the railroad tracks. So it's kind of part of maybe activating the alleys. So this would be perhaps a portion of that would support the the program that we have overall for the downtown plan. This is a private building, so we have talked to of course, the owner of the building, and who is supportive of the work, and we would just have to go through the appropriate protocol to make sure that the right paperwork's in place for that individual, for both sides, for the town and that individual. So that would be the proposed location. I'm showing another location that we've considered in the past, but would be maybe an alternate location if this one was not approved or didn't move forward. So what I'm asking for this evening, and I'll field any questions you have, of course, would be approval to move forward with the project, and then also approval for the proposed location.
This is awesome.
I know, I'm really excited about this, and I really would like to hear maybe a little bit more, or just encourage the students in the police department working together. And would there be a very intentional emphasis on local Apex artists possibly in your call when you?
Well, typically we always encourage local artists to apply, and we mostly advertise for these things in a small regional area, but it would be open to others.
Related to the budget item, would that be something you would have to come back?
It was included in our budget ask.
It was already included in the
this year.
previous, what we passed? Okay, great. All right. So I'm ready to make a motion to approve.
A second.
All right, motion second. Discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Passes unanimously. Thank you so much.
And just to get clarification, does that include the location? Is that just all as one package?
Yeah.
In my motion, yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you for all your work, sir.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Lovely. A lovely project.
Yes,
And,
absolutely.
Hope we could use both locations eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just a little concerned that they're going to put some Apex High School like mascots in the picture, just to mess with friendship a little bit. Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Next project will be one with friendship.
There you go.
Right. I mean, that's competition.
One on one,
That's right.
one on the other.
Yeah, maybe.
Big business too, Miss Colleen Moraes.
So I am obviously extremely prideful and proud and of all of us for this unity today. So I'm here to present two new events that are town-sponsored, fully town-sponsored events. These are not co-sponsored events. These are town-sponsored events. So one is obviously for the Apex Pride celebration on June 12th, and the other one is for the Juneteenth festival on June 19th. So two different weekends back to back. Obviously, I'll talk a little bit about Juneteenth, and then I'll let Member Killingsworth talk about Pride. So obviously Juneteenth is a celebration, obviously of Freedom Day and Emancipation. And it is a great event this year. We're going to be doing face painting. There's going to be food vendors. There's going to be some crafters. It's just a great day, I think. There's going to be a spoken word poet who's going to come out and do some so there's going to be a lot of really fun things. I really encourage people, if they're able to. It's 11 to 3 in front of the depot in downtown. Again, I'll just reiterate in case anybody's watching, June 19th on a Saturday in downtown, and it's going to be really great. So I really encourage people to come out and just kind of celebrate and enjoy a fun day. And I was looking at the weather, Member Killingsworth, and it looks like Saturday is looking pretty not too hot, around 77. Chance of rain is only around 30% for this Saturday. But so if you want to kind of tell everybody about the Pride celebration this weekend, I think people should really come out for that too, and I think it'll be a great event.
Sure, it's our first annual Pride event. We'll basically have a lot of swag for sale. So you've all got buttons on. We'll have t-shirts and hats and different things fun things like that. We will also have some entertainment, some crafts, some food. So it's an event to build community and just show support. So.
Yep.
And location?
Location, Hunter Street Park, from 12 to 4.
At the shelter.
Yes.
So don't try and go to the skate park and get your You can. Well, I mean, fly that pride flag proudly as you skate around the park, but yeah, no, so meet everybody at the shelter. And then I also want to, so the motion before you for town expenses, we're talking about a little over $3,600 in town expenses for these two events. We do have two street banners that are up already. The Apex Bride banner is right as you come in on North Salem Street to downtown, and the other one is on the other end. So that's coming from 64. If you're coming from 55 from Williams, you'll see the Juneteenth. So they all kind of come in right as you're heading into the heart of Apex in downtown. So they're both really up, and they're really colorful and vibrant. And I so encourage everybody to show their support for these two really fun events as we lead into July 4th and some other fun events that we're going to be having coming up then too. So we'll have our old-fashioned July 4th celebration too, which will actually be July 3rd for those people who want to come out, by the way, not on the 4th.
Thank you so much.
Question?
Just a comment, it's so nice to be opening up to these events, and I think it's going to be so much fun, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, no restrictions. We're not trying to limit people, because math gatherings don't have limited numbers right now. So if you're not comfortable, wear your mask. But if you are comfortable, come down. But they're all outdoors, so you should feel pretty good about coming out.
Motion to approve.
That's seconding.
All right, discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, passed unanimously. Thank you.
Thanks.
New business 3. The man, Mr. Sean Purvis.
Evening, Mayor, members of Town Council. So I don't have much to present because I think I've basically worn this one out over the last 6 months. So there were nothing new based on what you delivered to us, and any comments come in, nothing. So the only changes to the budget document were in fact, just those 2 fee changes that I mentioned, where we had to remove the one planning fee, and then we added in the $149 in case the boxes get torn up. So with that, the budget is ready to go, and that's the new business 3 item is just a motion to approve the budget ordinance and the fee schedule.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right.
I actually had a question. So I'm not sure where we're going to end up on the American Rescue Plan stuff, but all that kind of spending will be after this, and
that's completely separate.
We'll adjust any budget things we need to adjust.
Yep. We'll adjust any budget things we need to adjust according to for the ARPA, because that actually needs to be a whole separate budget. We want that money to come in, stay in a separate fund, and be budgeted separately. So that'll be something that's coming. It's on the way. We're getting a lot of every week, every other day. We've got some sort of webinar or some memo about, hey, here's this guideline, because it's not just how you can use it; it's what the reporting is and everything else.
And how that will look in theory is some kind of next year's budget may be different, or a budget amendment that may, if there's any changes to our budget, that
it'll be a budget amendment in that what we'll do is we'll set up a special fund for those funds to come into, and then we can track and spend from there. That way the incoming funds and then the reporting are all encapsulated, and it's just easier to monitor that way. So Vance is already prepared to set that fund up when it comes in. Yes, sir. So you can think about that as kind of, in a way, you'll have your own little separate, the budget amendments will be kind of a budget ordinance for just that amount.
Okay, thanks.
Do
Yes, sir.
we have any idea on the timelines of the funding?
Supposedly first amount will be this month. That said, we're kind of in a unique situation. I shouldn't say unique because there's 142 of us, I think, that are in a different situation than we originally thought we were going to be in. That's nationwide with kind of we got switched in our what our classification was. And so while we have the federal money coming in, we also potentially were waiting for that final that the General Assembly is looking at to keep us whole, if you will, with what we originally thought we were going to get. So my understanding is that looks positive for us, but until it's actually passed through. So when that funding happens, that I don't know. That'll be up to the state budget, which they have many options on that, I'll say, because they can do smaller budgets, so amendments to the current year to keep it going. They can do an interim budget. They can wait. And I don't know where. We do not know where this money will be. I would imagine they're not going to wait too long on this money. It could be done before the final budget, but I've seen it where the final budget may not come till November or later. I think we've had years where they haven't even passed a budget, right?
Right, so,
Yeah,
we're not really operating on a budget now, but, so there should have probably been a conference report, which is what the House and Senate come, and then you have to look at the governor's report, but they have not decided what the cap is, so there's not, that hasn't happened. And so there could be just, you might see a bunch of mini budgets getting passed.
So where the money for ARPA comes in, we don't know the timing of that amount. So,
thanks.
But we'll make sure it's there. We'll make sure there's good discussion about what can be used for and get those uses set up.
Okay, so we have a motion and second on the table. All right. Any more discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Passed unanimously. New business 4.
New business 4, yes, sir, Mayor. So new business 4 is the passing of the capital CIP, the capital improvement plan, as well, which really the first year is what goes into the budget, and then what you find with that is all the ordinances, the capital project ordinances that set up those projects. We go ahead and get them set up now, and that way, come July 1, they're ready to go. So that's what you have before you tonight. And I'll answer any questions you have on those.
Any questions? Hearing none. Is there a motion?
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion is second.
Or adopt.
All right. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Passed unanimously. We move now to new business 5.
Okay, so we had a workshop last session to discuss wording of our non-discrimination ordinance. We all agreed on protected classes for non-discrimination, and we also agreed on, our purpose in this is to try to start a dialogue. It is not to punish people, but to help people understand about discrimination in the first place. So basically, it's up to us. We want to pass this. So I would like to make a motion to approve the non-discrimination ordinance. I'm excited about this getting done.
I'll second that.
All right.
You got two seconds.
Oh, was there a race? I'm sorry.
Wait, can we do a redo on that?
All right, we got a motion and second. Any other discussion on it before we move forward to vote?
I just want to say that I'm really proud that we're doing this, and I think this sends a message to our citizens. People want to visit Apex. This is a very welcoming place. Free discrimination. These are things, the point I made to someone earlier is these are things we already know to be true in Apex, and we're just writing it down now, making it part of our ordinance. So I'm really excited that we're doing this, and I think this is going to be a boon for economic development in the area and in Apex, because if you look what happens, companies are looking for towns that share their values and that express those values, and that are going to provide an environment that'll be safe and welcoming for their future employees. So us making this statement, I think, will be very helpful going forward for that reason as well. So really happy we're doing this. And thank you for Councilmember Killingworth for driving this for so long.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else?
I just have a minor question under the definitions on page 2 for age. Sorry I didn't bring this up quicker to someone, but age means an individual status as having obtained 40 or more years of age. I was just a little confused by that definition. I don't know if anybody could just speak to that. Section 3-3.
Legal way in?
It's probably.
Sorry, it just follows along with federal law.
Well, even so, it's I don't quite understand it. I mean, age means an individual status as having obtained 40 or more years of age. That's just status. That's just federal language, or?
So does that mean that federal law has recognized that possibly people who were over 39 years old have demonstrated, there's been some demonstration of some ageism related to employment. Is that what that is?
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
Who knew?
Just seemed a little ambiguous to me.
Okay, you good? Okay,
If legal is okay with it, I'm okay with it. Apparently so.
all right. Call for the vote. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, it passed unanimously. Okay, new business 6. This should be really quick.
Everyone's saying that.
All right, I would like to cancel the regular scheduled July 13th Town Council meeting for the purpose of giving our staff a break. I know we did it last year, and it's in line with the practice we've done in previous years, so they have really worked diligently this year to keep us moving forward, and I want to give them a break on that assigned date, so.
Motion approved.
All right,
Second.
all right.
Yeah, I thought when we did, the new council came in and I was going through the calendar, you know, and I said, joking, my birthday, we're gonna be off and stuff in December. Like, I thought we had done this. So I'm really, I think because the move, the second, from the first to the third, the second to fourth is what kind of threw it
Yeah,
off, so.
I think so. All
So
right.
maybe next time, whoever the council is can think about this, and maybe
Keep it
avoid
going,
this
a summer.
with these 5 minutes of.
I thought we did too, because we talked about canceling 2 of them.
Yeah, we
We're
just
gonna do the
did it
second
for
in June and the
first
first
year.
in
We
July.
didn't do it for,
Must be, okay.
And I think it's important for people to understand too, we're not going on recess, so like the General Assembly goes on recess and they're not doing any work. So it just means that if something happens and we need to be called in to work, we can handle something.
Sure.
I'm gonna be in New York.
Okay, we only don't be working from home then, so.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, passed unanimously.
You can have remote participation.
Exactly, we learned we can do that.
We'll make arrangements.
All right, Mr. Clark, you're up, but if you could give me 5 minutes, please. I drink 3 bottles of water. Just 5 minutes, I'll be right.
TMI.
One, I have had dialogue with the railroad over the last couple, 3 weeks, and I've learned a lot about trains and about what makes the whistle blow and why they blow the whistles, and trying to get some feel. But also, I've tried to build that relationship with CSX, because when I sent, did I give you a copy of the one today, Mayor? That I told him that I thought we could all live in the community and live harmoniously. So, but the CSX is regulated by the Federal Railroad Administration, and some of the things that they do, they have no choice. These regulations, and particularly from a safety standpoint, and one of the things that's in they call it the FRA regulations, is a train horn and quiet zone. And I've got this, and I'm actually talking to the guy with the railroad to be sure that all my stuff is correct before I send it out to you. But for example, engineers must begin to sound the train horns at least 15 seconds and no more than 20 seconds in advance of all public grade crossings. And if a train is traveling faster than 60 miles an hour, the engineers will not sound the horn until it's within a quarter of a mile of the crossing, even if it's less than 15 seconds. So what that's saying is these folks are required to sound this horn. But the interesting thing that I found out was the fact that how many crossings you have here. And I sat and listened in my office the last few days, and all of a sudden the horn starts blowing and it just keeps on blowing. It's because it's crossing another crossing and another crossing and another crossing. So some of the problems we're having are just purely by the regulations and how close your crossings are. And then they get into talking about quiet zones, and you have a quiet zone here, but you explored back some time ago about in putting some more quiet zones in, and I think when the cost came back, they scared the living mess out of you, and you said, we may put up with the horns, because if I heard the number correctly, then it was like $800,000 per section. So it's a whole lot of costs there for things to consider. But then we start talking about how many trains that come through here a day, and the things that differentiate the blowing of the horn. Amtrak comes through twice a day, somewhere around 6 in the morning, somewhere around 9, 10 at night, so what I was told. And they're running about 60 miles an hour when they come through here, so there's just a real loud blow and going on through. There are 2 freight trains that come through sometime during the day. But he said there, on a normal day, there would be about 6 local trains originating or coming back into Apex. And these trains are traveling at such a low rate of speed that the requirements require them to blow the horn until they get through the intersection. So you can imagine a train creeping along at 8 miles an hour, how long it takes. So one of the complaints we had, the lady talked about how long they blew it. And this kind of answers a little bit of why. But when I looked it up, put all these things together, and I started saying, okay, when we start considering how many crossings you got and the different kinds of trains and everything, I'm not sure that we're going to have much of a leg to stand on, except just getting the engineers to be as light as they can and creating that. I'm hoping that creating that relationship, because Chief Godwin and I went down to the railroad, to the local station here, and we walk in the door. We finally got in the door, and we started some conversation. The guy said, we don't tell you anything. There's a sign up there, you call that number. And we said, look, man, we didn't come here to call a whole free number. And we kept on talking to these guys, and finally one of them got his cell phone out and gave me a phone number, and I called the number, and I got a person directly, and we've had good communication since then. So we think that we've at least built some relationship with CSX, and hopefully, some of these things, everybody can live in this house. It's just a matter of, what we can stand from each other. But anyway, I've talked to him about that, and then we talked about the engines idling for long periods of time. Well, ironically, he called me today and he said, would you please send me an email and tell me to shut that train off? He said, I've got an engine down that the batteries are dead, and we said we have to keep it running. And it's been running several days. I'm surprised some of you hadn't gotten complaints. But I did send him an email, and he said, what happens is I need your help to get upper level CSX people to understand that we're in a community, and these things are not what we want. So, but the reason these trains are idling so much, and when we got our complaints was in the tail end of the winter, and probably some of them went back into the winter. But if they're here, they have to, if the temperature's below 32 degrees, these things have to run. Or if weather conditions are projecting extensive wet weather, and apparently it's something that they have to do to keep some of the systems dry. Or the other is like the one we have today. It's got a mechanical problem such as a low battery. And apparently the yard here that they connect these rail cars to, sometimes they connect the engine to it. And to keep the brakes pumped up on all these other cars, they have to keep them running. So I kind of noted in my thing here, and I'm hoping that the guy at CSX will agree that if it's a possible solution to move these cars that are running a little bit away from the residential, and we may move a problem from here and create another problem over here. So I think you have to be careful there. But at least trying to get the railroad to be sensible and reasonable with us, understanding that we're all neighbors. Another one of our complaints was an air quality concern, and I don't think that you're in the air quality business. I think that's.
Oh yes, we do.
Yeah, and I basically said this is where it needs to go, because of the fact that you're in no position locally to start measuring air quality. I don't think you have that ability. Huh?
We have sensors.
That's what the complaint. That's what one of the neighbors was referencing.
Yeah, but I think that's when you start governing air quality, I don't think that you can't create enough ordinances to say what rules are. EPA has those rules, and there's no point in duplicating them.
I think the idea we had was, and this was a couple of years ago, is to at least create awareness that we did present evidence. And there's a report that I wrote up. I'm not sure the status of. I think maybe has it, but
yeah.
Yeah, and I think, and not to say too much, but we came from that after the meeting we had with Congressman Price.
Yeah.
That was just one of those things we discussed with the community.
And I think that, railroads are very difficult to deal with and have been over the years, and just sometimes you have to create that relationship to finally get someone to talk to you that can have some influence, and it can happen. I can assure you, I think I've told the mayor a story about my friend Mark Bestnight helped me one time with the railroad, and I got immediate attention, and I had been around the block and around the block and around the block, but I finally got connected to someone that would listen to what I have to say, and I think you have to build that relationship. Very similar to the General Assembly. It's one of those things that you don't get much done there if you don't get a relationship, and so yeah. I'm hoping that I have at least gotten you on the right path to start settling some of the railroad stuff. And I've left Sean the phone number of the guy, and I've got his email today, and it took me a while to figure it out, but I got his email, and I sent him an email, and he said I got it. So I know I'm connected with him. Anyway.
While you're on the railroad, the graffiti.
He put in a work order to have it done.
Status, how long?
He told me that it should be pretty quickly. Like in weeks, not 6 months. When you talk about graffiti, where were you referencing? Because I went up today, and you got this building or something up here just beyond the skate park, but there's also graffiti on the fence.
This is what
Is that what you're, okay.
Yeah, it's very noticeable as you sit on Hunter Street.
Yeah, okay. Well, I will talk to him some more to be sure, just kind of get some point as to what the status of that is. But he did tell me that he had put in the work order to have that done. So
Thank you.
Hopefully, in building the relationship, things like that will happen. And I don't know. It's the best I can do.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
The other piece I have is that, as you know, my time with you is coming to an end. Next Thursday, June 17th will be my last day here, and I want to express my appreciation to you and the citizens of Apex for allowing me to be your interim manager. It's been a real privilege and an honor to be here, and to fill this role with such a competent work staff. And I continue to tell these folks that they're as good as it comes, and you should be proud of them. I mean, I haven't had to do too much here. I come in and I sit in an office by myself all day. You know, so other than just being here for long hours by yourself, and Donna comes in to see me once in a while, and we have conversations. I say, "Oh God, I got somebody to talk to." But anyway, and Sean does show up. So, but it really hits. You've just got a really good staff here, and it's made life, even with the conditions that we've gone through. And I haven't met many employees, and even with you, it's difficult to deal. If you don't have some face-to-face contact once in a while, you don't know who I am, hardly. I can put on a face, as I told the mayor when you were talking about interviews. I said, you need to look at these people because, you don't even know if I didn't take a bath this morning. So I want to be sure that, having the face-to-face, and as we've gotten a little closer, I have gotten to meet a few of the employees and, have some interaction with them. So but I really do appreciate the fact of you allow me to be here. And as I said, it's just been very unfortunate that the pandemic came through, and it made us have to do things a lot different than what you have. But it's my hope that I have fulfilled what your expectations of me in coming here. I've certainly attempted to do, and yes, I'm different from the last guy, and Katie coming in is going to be different from me, and she's going to be different from Drew. So, we all have to adjust, and I just say thank you for allowing me to be here, and best of luck with you in the future. I don't have anything else to say, but I do appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
I really appreciate it. You have come in, and when I look at you, I think about Kurt Warner being a tester bird. They call him up the couch out of retirement, and they have to lead a team.
Well, I probably like that. We don't last very long. We don't have that energy to stay long term. But yes, these things work out, and as I said, when I finish here, I'll take some time off probably, and who knows, I may be back working in 2 weeks. But my plan is to take a little time off of the summer and get my shooting back up to speed, and my golf back up the game up. So.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, looks like we're at the work session, which we will move upstairs, third floor conference room, training room, and then we'll do closed session after that. So we will not return to So we'll meet, everyone could be in place by 9:10, 10 minutes.